Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here this fine Thursday. I hope you are doing fantastic. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, always happy to have you. I've got to begin with what's becoming a growing pet peeve. The Republican establishment for years and years made promises they never intended to keep. The Republican establishment, you will recall, said if you won them back the House, they'd stop Obamacare. And they won back the House. They said, well, we actually need the Senate too. Got them the Senate. They said, well, we need the White House too. Surprise, Trump wins. You got it all. Obamacare is still the law of the land. Along the way, what they did is they made it more complicated. Now, you can argue it was John McCain who scuttled it, and that's all. But it's still the law of the land. Republicans, for years and years, said they were pro-life and they were fighting for pro-life culture, and they kept funding Planned Parenthood. They'd never fight. In fact, that's part of the problem. Republicans always pledged to fight and then never actually fought. How many times did you get an email or a text message or a letter in the actual mail urging you to contribute to the Republicans, and they would fight on your behalf, and all you got was another solicitation for money? You never actually got a fight. The Republicans promised to cut spending, and the only reason Republicans actually cut spending during the Obama years was because the House Freedom Caucus forced through sequestration. It was the Republican leadership that fought against sequestration. Those were actual, real, meaningful cuts, not cuts to future growth, but actual cuts to actual spending. And it worked. It reduced the size and scope of the federal government. It saved Obama from himself. It saved the GOP. And then the GOP, they scrapped sequestration and they exploded the debt. They exploded it. We're at $32 trillion in debt, not because of Democrats, but because of Republicans and Democrats. And Republicans along the way, the Republican establishment said, you fight for us, you side with us, you give us your money, we'll fight for you. And they never did. So a lot of conservatives, anti-establishmentarian conservatives, like, you know what, a pox on all your houses. Here comes this guy down an escalator named Donald Trump. And we're going to go with this guy. And he's just going to burn it all down. Because at this point, the only way to save it is to burn it all down and start over. So a lot of conservatives who had been misled, lied to, and scammed by the Republican establishment sided with Donald Trump, and he won. And he began burning down parts of the Republican Party and replacing it with his own ideas. And, you know, the irony is that as much as people blast the Republican establishment now, and they think Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, Paul Ryan, whoever, Donald Trump's the Republican establishment now. Donald Trump won. Donald Trump became the establishment. And it is Trumpian ideology and populism that is the establishment of the Republican Party now. You still think of yourselves as anti-establishmentarians. You still feel like you're an outsider. But it's Donald Trump that Kevin McCarthy bows to. And it's more than a little disappointing that the new establishment is just like the old establishment. Which brings me to State Senator Colton Moore in Georgia, who has made national news. Colton Moore, the state senator in Georgia, has sent out a petition to call for a special session of the legislature to stop Fani Willis, the district attorney in Fulton County, Georgia. He's urging conservatives nationwide to call Republican legislators. He's posting their phone numbers for conservative activists to call them and harass them to sign his letter. And he's also posting donation links. He's running a big fundraising operation. It's a grift. It's a grift. He's preying on your desires for action, just like the establishment. Because Colton Moore has no power to do what he claims he can do if every Republican signs the letter. See, in Georgia, you may not be aware of this. In Georgia, to call a special session of the legislature, you need 3/5 support of the state legislature. You need a 3/5 majority. Republicans don't have a 3/5 majority in the Georgia legislature. So they can't call the special session. Colton Moore pivots when you do this. It says, well, this is a show of support for Donald Trump. Sign your name as a show of support. Except this is what the Republican establishment always does. Sign your name, and you get all the Republicans to say it. Look, all the Republicans support this, and then they still can't get anything done. And a whole lot of voters who are not politically tuned in, they pay attention. They're like, what the heck? Every Republican signed this. Why aren't they getting anything done? You're riling them up and you're making them angry at the same time. These voters who they don't understand that a majority of Republicans don't have the power to do something. After all, it's a majority. The majority should take action, and they can't. It's a fundraising scam. He's raising money for his own political coffers, lying to you that you, the Republicans, can do something to stop Fani Willis. He doesn't have the power to do it. This is no different than when Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan said, you hand us the majority, we'll stop Obamacare. This is no different than the Republican leaders of old saying, you give us the majority, we'll stop Planned Parenthood, and then they funded it. This is no different than any of those things. It's a grift. It's a scam. You're being lied to. You're being whipped into a frenzy, and this is the result. This is the problem. That most people don't pay attention to the nuances. They have no idea that they're being played. And this guy is getting his fellow Republicans harassed by people around the country who don't understand the nuances of Georgia law because they're not even from Georgia. And you know it's bad when even Marjorie Taylor Greene is scoffing at the guy. He's in her district. He's a state senator in her district in Georgia. And even Marjorie Taylor Greene, yes, that Marjorie Taylor Greene has come out and said what he wants to do is impossible. You don't have the votes to call a special session. And even if you had the votes to call a special session, you don't have the votes to impeach and stop Fani Willis. You need a 2/3 vote for that. And you don't have it in the state legislature. So why get these fellow Republicans harassed? Because it's not about the fellow Republicans. It's about your money. He's fundraising off your convictions and your anger. It's just exactly what the Republican establishment always does. The new establishment is the same as the old establishment. And what they do is they whip you into a frenzy, and then they say, well, it's not my fault. It's these people over here. It's their fault. This happens time and time again. And the downside of it is the people who are the victims of the scam, of the grift, of the anger, they tend to be people of limited means. They tend to be senior citizens on fixed incomes who are passionate about saving the country for their grandkids. And along comes this young guy from North Georgia who says, you know, if you could just help me bully all the Republicans into signing this letter, we can save Donald Trump. And it's not true. The Georgia Freedom Caucus, I'm actually a big fan of the Georgia Freedom Caucus. I was there for their launch. I've been supportive of them. They're pushing this with him. I wish they wouldn't, because they're lying. You get people to sign on to this and just say, well, it's actually just a show of support. But it's not a show of support. You've been telling people, if we all sign this, we can stop Fani Willis, and it's not true. Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, good dude. He's the only Trump-supported candidate to win statewide in Georgia in 2022. Burt Jones, lieutenant governor, who is pro-Trump, supported by Trump, endorsed by Trump. Trump raised money for him, has come out and said, what this state senator wants Can't happen. They don't have the votes for it. You've got Burt Jones out saying this can't happen. So why is the Georgia Freedom Caucus lying to people? Is it a grift? It sounds like a grift. You know, the Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's group, they want $100 million to do door-to-door ground game ballot harvesting activities in 3 states. You don't need $100 million to do that. Now, how do I know? Because I was a campaign consultant for years. It's one of the things I did. Door-to-door ballot collection, absentee ballot runs, things like that. When I was a campaign consultant, you don't need $100 million for 3 states. $100 million. That $100 million, you got to be lining somebody's pocket. It sounds like a grift to me. Too many of the Trump wings of the party, I think they're scared that they've made it to the establishment, but the anti-establishment forces that used to be the establishment are trying to get back. And so they're running a giant grifting operation. They're trying to cash in on their time and power before they get booted again. The Island of Misfit Toys is in charge. They want to get as much money out of you as possible before they're exiled again. And that's what's going on. We see this so much. It's what the old establishment did, and now the pro-Trump establishment doing the same thing. We gotta fundraise off your fears. We got to cash in. We've got to promise you a bunch of things we can't deliver on. And you, the people, y'all are being taken advantage of by these people. Y'all are being taken advantage of. You know the number one criticism I get when I do my gathering every year? The number one criticism I get is that the ticket prices are too low. I know, is that not the most absurd thing? Every single year, I hear it from the people who come. I hear it from the sponsors. The ticket prices are too low. Oh, we're going to raise them next year. But we're not going to raise them by as much as what some people do. And you know why? Because the whole point of it is to be able to not make money off of you. I want more money. I want to be much more wealthy. I want land. I want a big house. I want to fly in a private jet. But not off of you people. Not off of you. And this is just such a problem, is that there are so many people in the conservative movement right now who feel their power slipping away from them, and they're trying to cash in. And it's sad to see a state senator in Georgia in the Georgia Freedom Caucus preying on people, typically on fixed incomes and Bidenomics, who are hurting, trying to make ends meet, who are telling them, if you support us, if you give us money, we can make this happen, when they physically, legally cannot do it. Nothing under the Georgia Constitution or laws permit it. And you don't know that, do you? You don't know. And this is happening nationwide, whether it's the ballot harvesting program from Turning Point or you name it. The grift is underway. People feel their power slipping from them. They feel that the establishment striking back, the old establishment, not the Trump establishment, and they're trying to cash in on you. And sometimes you got to be vocal and say this isn't right. The governor of the state of Georgia held a press conference today, and he himself has chimed in now and said absolutely not. There's nothing the state legislature can do to stop Fani Willis, and if they tried at this point, he would stop them. Why? Because he says Republicans should not engage in a pattern of behavior that could set precedents for Democrats if they get power. To his knowledge, no crime has been identified that Fani Willis has been implicated in, so he doesn't have the power to suspend her. The legislature doesn't have the votes to call a special session, nor does it have the votes to impeach her and take her from office. When you hear people say they can, if you just sign this letter and give some money, you're being scammed. And it's sad to see the new establishment behaving just like the old establishment and setting the precedents for their own purge from power as they alienate voters by abusing their trust. Somebody at some point has to stand up and say, stop grifting off the voters. I am a small businessman. The company that I run for my radio show, it's a small business. I've got employees. I don't have HR. You may be in that situation and you may really need HR. Well, you may want to talk to Bambi. When running a business, your employees can create all sorts of interesting situations and they could get you in trouble. What happens when two employees are squabbling? One of them smells bad all the time. What do you do? How do you navigate the rules? With Bambi, you get access to your own dedicated HR manager starting at just $99 a month. They're available by phone, email, real-time chat. Onboarding and terminations run smoothly. Team members reach peak performance. Your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations. Let Bambi handle your employees for you. Their HR autopilot automates important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. Listen, you want U.S.-based HR managers who give you experience, expertise, a personal touch you need to make it seem like they're a part of your team. They could cost $80,000 a year, but Bambi starts at $99 a month. Schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambi can take off your plate. Go to Bambi.com right now. Type in Eric Erickson under podcast when you sign up. It'll help you. It'll help your company grow. It'll help you keep peace of mind. It's spelled B-A-M-B-E-E. BAM, B-E-E.com. Bambi.com. Type in Eric Erickson. Welcome back. The phone number, should you wish to be on the program, 877-973-7425. As always, you can text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, and you can get all the show notes. I want to go jump to the phones. Amir, you're going to be up next. Welcome. Almir?
Yes. Hey, can you hear
Welcome.
me, Eric?
Yes, I can.
All right. Well, I have to agree with you on that. Like I was telling your phone screener, that the Republicans have always had a chance when they had the Senate, the Congress, and the presidency. During Trump era, they missed the opportunity. They first believed that almost the Russian hoax for half his time, and then when they finally got on the same page, everything that they promised, they really have not done anything. Even today, you're looking at everything that they're promising. They're just not putting it in. Like the Democrats, if they get a slight majority in any, Senate, House, and then in presidency, they're passing, they're creaming it in, and they're doing it. And we can yap about saying, well, it's not politically correct, it's not morally correct, but they're doing it. And we're here sitting and just, let's see how we can make this correct, to be one way or another correct.
So, Almir, then there's one extra point to this. Democrats are willing to do it and lose. Republicans are scared to do anything lest they lose power, and consequently, Republicans get thrown out of office because they get the power, they don't do anything.
That's right, because for some reason we do listen. Like if they promise something, we end up voting for them so that we hope that they're going to fulfill the promise. And then when they don't, we actually don't vote for them the next time. But Democrats, it doesn't matter whether they fulfill it or not. They're going to vote Democrat no matter what. And then, and then on another topic is, your gathering, the show was awesome.
Yep. Thank you.
I still kind of they're all great candidates. They would be perfect. But I believe for this time in this country, that the way everything is, that the government and the establishment, the elites, against pretty much all of us.
Almir,
I don't think any of them would fit the bill, and I hate to say it, it does take somebody like Trump to deal with these people. None of them is going to fulfill these promises that they're saying they're going to fulfill. I don't believe it. I honestly don't.
Well, the problem here is, and I got to let you go there, and going to have to reschedule the commercial break here. Part of the problem, though, is that, can he get back in? You want someone like that who can browbeat, but keep in mind, he was president when they failed to repeal Obamacare, and he was the president who pushed the lockdowns, and he was the president who never fired the CDC director when they sent out the contaminated COVID kits, and he was the president who committed to school shutdowns, and he was the president, all this COVID stuff that he's now complaining about. He was the president who even did drop boxes for balloting. That's the problem here with President Trump. When we come back, let's get away from that topic and go to the Acela Corridor economy. Hi there, welcome. The phone number 877-973-7425. You know, I gotta. So we had a seasoned citizen call because I dare to criticize the Republicans, which I think, you know, having been an elected one, I'm in a position to be able to criticize my own side, but the seasoned citizen decided I must be in the employ of China for criticizing Republicans. These are the people who get scammed. You know, a buddy of mine texted me, Joe, and said, how do you explain to your listeners that sometimes it's their fault they're getting scammed? Well, this is a great example. This is a great example. You can't abide criticism of your own side, and you're convinced you must be bought and paid for by China when you criticize. You know, the establishment, whether it's the existing Trumpian establishment or the pre-Trump McConnell-Ryan establishment, they get by challenging anyone who dares to point out their flaws on their own side. Well, you're disloyal. You must be paid for by China, and they just get fabulously wealthy off of the seasoned citizens who get angry with anyone pointing out that they're being scammed. Some people do want to be scammed. Now, back to the phones. Bob, you're going to be up next. Welcome to the show, Bob.
Eric, I'm a seasoned citizen, and I've been seasoned with rock salt. But
so now, Bob, let me ask you, if you've been seasoned with rock salt, if we just spin you around a lot, do you make ice cream?
No, I'd probably make sour cream, but the problem is the politics has become a profession. They'll do anything for the money. That's why they didn't like Trump, I'm sure, because he went in and tried to, quote, shake it up. And they were afraid, oh, my God, we're not going to get all this money. Look at these people, been in there for, 40, 50 years, always getting their paycheck. Mm-hmm. They don't care as long as they get paid. That's the whole
That's why
thing.
I'm rapidly moving towards term limits. Although, Bob, I do have to tell you, Grover Norquist, when he was at the conference 2 weeks ago, said that for those who worry about there being no term limits in Washington, always remember God himself imposes term limits.
Yeah, but guess what? He's let him go too long.
Yep, that's true. Yeah, look, there's a lot of wisdom in what you're saying. And it's not just that they cash in on this, Bob, and thanks for the phone call. It's that they look at it as sport now and entertainment. It's far easier for them to go on Fox and MSNBC and fundraise by saying things that tickle your ears than to actually go do the hard work of getting something done. They all want to go on TV now. They don't actually want to work as a legislator anymore. And yeah, it's a deeply, deeply problematic system. And, you know, Trump as the bull in the china shop was the one thing I kind of enjoyed about him. As much as I'm not a huge fan, I loved the bull in the china shop aspect because both sides get into conventional wisdom. Like it was Republicans, not just Democrats. It was Republicans who would say, move the embassy to Jerusalem. And then they never would. We're going to start a war. And along comes Trump, who says, no, we're going to move the embassy to Jerusalem, the challenging of conventional wisdom. But he's not alone in doing that. And I think that's something that people miss, is that he's not alone in doing this. I mean, look, for example, at the current governor of Florida, who completely defied even the Trump administration when it came to COVID-19. And it worked. He was right. DeSantis defied the conventional wisdom that even took over the Trump administration when it came to masks and vaccine mandates and lockdowns and shutdowns and keeping kids out of school. And it worked. By the way, speaking of DeSantis, good soundbite from him today in the aftermath of the hurricane.
Trying to loot down in Steinhatchee. And I've told all of our personnel at the state level, you protect people's property, and we are not going to tolerate any looting in the aftermath of a natural disaster. I mean, it's just ridiculous that you would try to do something like that on the heels of an almost Category 4 hurricane hitting this community. I'd also just remind potential looters that you never know what you're walking into. People have a right to defend their property. This part of Florida, you got a lot of advocates and some proponents of the Second Amendment. And I've seen signs in different people's yards in the past after these disasters, and I would say it's probably here. You loot, we shoot. You never know what's behind that door. If you go break into somebody's house and you're trying to loot, these are people that are going to be able to defend themselves and their families. So I would not do it. We are going to hold you accountable from a law enforcement perspective at a minimum, and it could even be worse than that, depending on what's behind that door. So let's all band together and lift people up and not try to take advantage of a difficult situation.
Amen, amen, and amen. Yeah. It's kind of a remarkable thing, the amount of people who want to show up and try to loot. And good for DeSantis for supporting people's Second Amendment right to defend their property. Now, again, this is a guy who has so often defied conventional wisdom, even his handling of nursing homes in Florida, when the media was attacking him and praising Andrew Cuomo. And we now know that Cuomo got a whole lot more people killed than died in Florida, senior citizens, because of COVID, even as the media tried to rewrite the narrative. Don't presume there's only one guy capable of doing it. Sometimes you need a younger guy with more energy. Now, while I'm saying this, I need to set the table for you on something. I am, during commercial break, have been reading this worshipful piece about high-speed rail. The Washington Post has a big story on high-speed rail in the nation, and that it's no longer Amtrak that is doing it. It's private companies as well. And God bless the private companies. There's a company called Brightline building a high-speed rail line between Orlando and Miami. And it's not real high-speed rail. It gets up to about 125 miles per hour, which technically isn't high-speed rail. The Acela corridor from Boston down to Washington, D.C., is the only major Amtrak line in the nation that Amtrak itself owns, and so it can get trains that are fast by American standards, 125, 130 miles an hour. But this Brightline company is also building a real high-speed rail line between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, and it'll get up to 187 miles an hour. That's real high-speed rail. Now, for those of you who don't know, Las Vegas is the number one travel destination for people under 40 in Los Angeles. They go to Las Vegas, and it's a car ride, and it's a several-hour car ride. I know people who take this car ride from L.A. to Las Vegas. They like to go gamble, particularly single young men. They get their friends together. They go to Caesars for the weekend and reenact The Hangover and hopefully not get herpes, because that comes back with you. And they do this regularly, and there's been this demand for a high-speed rail line between Las Vegas and Los Angeles for some time, and a private company's decided to build it. Now, they're using, of course, government subsidies to build it. It's just there's this worshipful desire. Now, listen, airline travel has become more and more inconvenient for people. You got to go through TSA. You got to get your prostate examined while you're standing in line. You got to bend over and then turn your head and cough and have your baggage checked and take off your shoes and your belt. And with a high-speed rail line, you generally you walk through the metal detector, if at all. If there's security, like with Amtrak, there isn't really. And then you get on the train and you go. And typically you wind up in a downtown area. You don't wind up at an airport outside the city. You wind up downtown. It's one of the neat things about flying into Las Vegas is when you land, you're like there. You're at the Strip. But God bless them for doing it. The realities in the economics, though, is, let's be clear here, it depends on government subsidy. Now, I say all of that to get to a story that I find really interesting, and the dismissive nature of people in the Washington, New York corridor towards it. Here's the headline: 61% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Inflation is squeezing budgets. As of July, 61% of adults still said they're living paycheck to paycheck, according to the Lending Club, slightly more than last year's 59%. Yet recent releases show that, at least compared with the soaring inflation of a year ago, consumers have been squeezed by higher prices. they should be experiencing some relief. June and July saw easing in the pace of price increases, with core inflation up 0.2% for each month. But Jerome Powell says it's still too high. Here's the problem, is when inflation was going up 8% and now it's going up 4%, it's still going up. It's just not going up as fast. It doesn't mean it ever dipped. And the media and the Democrats, a lot of progressives, cannot believe that you can't feel that Joe Biden's economy is good. Grabian is the service we use for a lot of our audio, put together this montage. Listen to this.
Bidenomics. Polls consistently show that a majority of the American people disapprove of the president's handling of the economy.
Eviction filing rates are soaring, 50% higher than they were before the pandemic.
Over half of Americans earning a six-figure salary report that they're actually living paycheck to paycheck.
Tens and tens of millions of people are struggling to put food on the table.
The number of homeless people on the streets and in shelters across the U.S. increased significantly this year.
Biden trying to rev up his economic vision for America, but a lot of people aren't buying it because they can't literally buy anything.
I'm so sick of how expensive everything is. I don't know how anyone else is surviving out here. I can't go to the grocery store and get a week's worth of groceries.
Y'all, I'm sorry. That should have been caught. I can't play the rest of that audio. I apologize tremendously to everyone. That should have been caught, and it wasn't. The audio montage is of angry people who are complaining about their cost of living and the media outlets of America that refuse to acknowledge the problem. The media outlets of America are lambasting these people and attacking these people and saying they are ungrateful for what they have and have not gotten. And it's amazing to me on MSNBC on a daily basis now. They are attacking Americans for being ungrateful to Joe Biden. They are attacking Americans for being ungrateful for the economic changes. They are attacking Americans for not feeling like they have it good. And I actually got some interaction from people on Twitter on this story that, for example, they were saying, how on earth are people not making changes to their lifestyle to deal with the situation? Why are people still struggling because the economy's on a rebound? Except, I know people who have had to pull their kids out of private school because they can no longer afford the tuition to make ends meet because costs have gone up so much. It's deeply, deeply destructive to have the national media and the Democrats attacking Americans who are deeply frustrated about the economy. It is no way to proceed to attack voters, and I would remind Republicans, it is the economy, stupid. Don't attack the voters who are struggling. Attack the politicians, the media, who just can't figure it out. Now, I got to tell you about Patriot Mobile that's fighting the good fight for conservatives around the country, and they may be able to save you some money. If you go to patriotmobile.com/Eric today, you can move your cell service to them, take your phone number to them, and you can save money with them. Patriot Mobile has a fantastic cell operation around the country using the same cell towers you're probably already using. And Patriot Mobile gives you guaranteed great service and gives you great discounts. And as their profits grow, they grow their giving to the conservative causes you care about. So if you go to patriotmobile.com/Eric or 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT, you can move your cell service to Patriot Mobile. You can save money. You get guaranteed great service. And if you call them, by the way, tell them I sent you to get free activation. And they have 100% U.S.-based customer service. It's patriotmobile.com/Eric, patriotmobile.com/Eric, or you can call them 972-PATRIOT. Tell them I sent you. Save yourself some money. Do business with people who share your values and grow the conservative movement. I don't like to call attention to mistakes around here, but I got to apologize again to you guys because it's unacceptable and my blood pressure's up. It shouldn't have happened. That montage, the bad language should have been cut, and it wasn't, and it ultimately falls on me. And I profoundly apologize to each of you that you had to listen to that. I just assumed that stuff, when I send it off to have it cut for me, gets blocked, and it wasn't. And that's a huge screw up and makes us look bad, and you shouldn't be subjected to it. I know some of you have kids in the car, so I'm a little bit aggravated at the moment, and I apologize, but we'll move on. The phone number here, 877-973-7425, if you would like to be on the program. I got to play you this audio real quick. This is nice words about the president of the United States that he would go there, reporter asking Joe Biden, essentially, Mr. President, Ron DeSantis is running for president. And isn't he political in handling Idalia? Listen to Biden.
Mr. President, Governor DeSantis is also running for president. You are running for re-election. Do you sense any politics in your conversations with him about this issue?
No, believe it or not, I know this sounds strange, especially how the nature of politics today. But, I was down there when the last major storm. I spent a lot of time with him, walking from village from community to community, making sure he had what he needed to get it done. I think he trusts my judgment and my desire to help, and I trust him to be able to suggest that this is not about politics, it's about taking care of the people of the state.
Every once in a while, normalcy returns to politics, and that's a good one. That the president of the United States and Ron DeSantis can deal with the people of Florida, and in so dealing with the people of Florida, they're not resorting to political tit for tat. The political tit for tat, I'm sure, will come, but it's notable that the press tried to draw the president into a political fight with Ron DeSantis as the hurricane was hitting Florida, and it didn't happen. But I got to give you this. Within 12 hours of the hurricane making landfall, Chris Hayes started attacking Ron DeSantis for not accepting climate funding for vaccines for COVID. Climate boosters, he called them. I kid you not. Chris Hayes attacking Ron DeSantis for not taking Inflation Reduction Act money in order to give people supplemental COVID vaccines. Absolutely amazing. And now, of course, you expect MSNBC to go there, but it's only a matter of time. I told you guys, I guarantee you, the moment federal disaster relief comes in for Florida, they're going to start attacking DeSantis for having taken the federal disaster relief, which you should note the Biden administration continues to insist the disaster relief for Hawaii and for Florida must be tied to funding for Ukraine. Yeah, that's right. If you want to save Florida and Maui, you got to also save Ukraine. And I support funding Ukraine, and even I'm outraged by this. Absolutely, absolutely absurd. You know what's also absurd is going to a big box store to buy a computer for yourself or your small business, and it is one size fits all about the only thing you can customize is the memory in it. If you call Vision Computer, they can present to you an alternative. You go to visioncomputer.com or 404-COMPUTE. Any one of you nationwide, for yourself or your business, for your loved ones, for your assistants, for your coworkers, whatever you need, Vision can build you the computers you need, laptops and desktops. They build you laptops and desktops, and then they also serve as your IT department. So you don't have to spend all the extra money on having someone in your office. Vision, each of your employees can call them. They will tech support them. They can troubleshoot online. They can remote in. They can do updates. They can help your employees with printer support, with email. Let me tell you how great it is. You're thinking, my employees may not be on it. My 14-year-old calls Vision Computer when he has a problem with his computer, and they take care of him over the phone. And they're so easy to work with, he can figure it out. All you got to do is go to visioncomputers.com. visioncomputers.com, or call them 404-COMPUTE, 404-COMPUTE. Any one of you nationwide, from Oregon to Miami, you can call Vision Computers. Let them be the people who build your computer, what you need and want, and be your service department. 404-COMPUTE. Ask about the Eric Erickson special.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.